Welcome to Guyana News Updates Recap, your essential source for the key events and headlines shaping Guyana. We bring you the latest developments on important stories, keeping you informed on the issues that matter. Our recent coverage has included updates on the ongoing investigation into the tragic death of 11-year-old Adriana Younge. You may have heard about differing perspectives on this case. For instance, Attorney General Anil Nandlall has stated his view that a second post-mortem or forensic procedure would be of very little or no value based on information available to him. He also defended the Guyana police force as the authorized agency for investigations, questioning the implications for police morale and potential precedent if foreign agencies were always imported. It is noted, however, that the government has secured the services of a Canadian homicide investigator to assist local police, and this expert is already in Guyana meeting with investigators. In related news, opposition leader Aubrey Norton recently led a protest outside the president's office, demanding justice for Adriana Younge. Mr. Norton raised concerns about the handling of the investigation by the police and the president. He alleged that the police showed no initial interest in finding the child and proceeded to cover up, even questioning an assistant commissioner's reported statement about video evidence. He also stated that the entire investigation felt tainted and highlighted concerns about statements not being taken more than a week after the incident. The family of Adriana Younge also demands justice and is hoping for a second post-mortem examination. These are just some of the vital stories we aim to cover, bringing you the facts and different viewpoints as reported. To stay fully informed on these crucial developments and all the latest news across Guyana, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others who need to stay updated, and hit that subscribe button to join our community and ensure you don't miss our next recap. The podcast discussion begins now. Remember to leave your comments as we cover updates surrounding the death of Adriana Younge.
Okay, let's dive straight in today. We're looking at a really concerning situation out of Guyana.
That's right. The death of 11-year-old Adriana Younge at the Doubleday Hotel.
Exactly. And the aftermath, the debate around the investigation, it's really heating up.
Yeah.
Our sources today are two reports from News Source Guyana, May 14th and 16th of this year. And they highlight two key things, really.
What have we got?
Well, first, the Attorney General's comments, pretty strong, against a second postmortem.
Okay.
And second, the opposition leader leading a protest demanding more action.
Right. Demanding justice.
So our mission here in this deep dive is to kind of unpack these events, look at the different sides, and get to the heart of the questions this whole tragic situation raises for you.
And it's immediately clear there's this tension. You've got the family understandably wanting more answers.
Yeah.
And then you have the government's official stance on the investigation as it stands. These news reports really capture that conflict.
Okay, let's start with the Attorney General, Anil Nandlall, and his position on that second postmortem, the PME. May 14th report says he just doesn't see a need for it. He's quoted saying the information suggests it would be of little or no value.
Which is quite definitive.
It is, and we need to remember, the first PME, that was done by 3 independent foreign pathologists.
That's a really crucial detail. He's basically leaning on the credibility of that first examination.
Right, which concluded drowning as the cause of death.
So his view seems to be, look, we had experts, they gave a conclusion, what more would another one tell us?
But the family, well, they obviously want a second opinion. They've even identified someone.
Dr. Hubert Daisley.
From Trinidad.
That's the one. Apparently he's done autopsies in Guyana before. The report does say the medical council is looking into him further.
Okay.
But the core issue is the family's desire for another look. And Nandlall, he actually questions the, quote, true reason behind their request.
Ooh, that sounds a bit loaded. Questioning their motive. It does make you think, doesn't it? Even with foreign experts involved initially, why might a family still push so hard for a second opinion in a case like this?
Well, it's not that unusual, especially in these really emotionally charged situations. Grief is powerful, and, the need for certainty, absolute certainty. Yeah. Sometimes that means seeking multiple confirmations. Even if the first source is credible, maybe the circumstances just don't sit right with them.
All right, the circumstances of her being found. We'll get to that.
And the Attorney General's skepticism, while maybe based on his legal or informational assessment, it does clash with that very human need for reassurance.
Absolutely. And the report also notes kind of in passing that that no burial date has been announced yet.
Which just adds another layer of unresolved pain for the family, you'd imagine. Needing that closure, perhaps, that they feel they can't get yet.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. The Attorney General also came out strongly against bringing in external investigators. Like the FBI, Scotland Yard, Canadian police.
Right. And his reasoning there seems tied to sort of national procedure and the role of the local police.
Yeah, he argues the Guyana Police Force, the GPF, is the authorized body for investigations in Guyana, period.
And he mentioned concerns about morale, didn't he?
He did. Worried about the impact on the GPF if external agencies just get called in for every big case.
It's a point about maintaining the authority and, I guess, the perceived competence of the national force.
He also worried about setting a precedent. Where does it stop? Does every family then expect foreign investigators if they're not happy?
It's that classic balancing act, isn't it? Ensuring justice in one very public, very sensitive case versus upholding the standard operating procedures for all cases.
But, and this is really important, the report makes it clear the government has brought someone in.
Ah, yes, the Canadian homicide investigator.
Exactly, to assist the local police. So it's not a flat no to any outside help.
That's a critical distinction. They're bringing in expertise, support, but not handing over the entire investigation.
It seems like a bit of a middle ground. The report says this Canadian investigator is already there, meeting with the local teams.
Which suggests perhaps a pragmatic approach. They recognize the sensitivity, maybe the need for specialized skills, but want to keep the GPF in the lead.
And Nandal emphasized making decisions that don't set a bad precedent, considering the, quote, public good. It all ties together.
It frames it as a decision based on broader principles, not just this one case.
Okay, so now let's look at the other side. The opposition leader, Aubrey Norton. He led a protest outside the president's office. Very strong reaction.
Understandably, yes. The May 16th report covers this. His main demand is clear: justice for Adriana Younge.
He really hammers home the timeline, which seems central to the family's concerns.
Remind us.
Adriana found dead 3 weeks ago in the hotel pool, but that was a day after she was reported missing.
Right, and the family claims that pool was searched before she was found there.
Multiple times, they say. And then she's found, coinciding with sort of growing protests and public attention. That's the sequence that fuels their doubt about the drowning conclusion.
You can see why that timeline would raise questions for them if she wasn't there during earlier searches. Where was she? How did she end up there?
Exactly. So despite that first PME by foreign experts saying drowning, their demand for a second PME is firm. It stems directly from those circumstances.
It really highlights a disconnect. You have the official finding, but it doesn't seem to align with the family's narrative or observations of the events. That gap is where the suspicion grows.
And Norton is not holding back. He's criticizing the police, the president, accusing them of a cover-up.
Strong words.
Very. He points to claims about an assistant commissioner, Mandal, supposedly saying there was video of Adriana leaving the hotel. Norton alleges that was a lie.
Wow. If true, that points to a massive breakdown of trust between the family, the opposition, and the authorities.
Absolutely. And it leads directly to his demand. Call in the FBI. Call in a reputable international investigation team. He clearly has zero confidence in the local handling of it.
His argument seems to be that the local process is already compromised.
Yeah, he said, all avenues should be exhausted for justice, and that the whole investigation was tainted by the police from the start.
Did he give specifics on why he felt it was tainted early on?
He claimed, and this is quite striking, that more than a week after she disappeared, the police hadn't taken even one statement.
A week? No statements. If that's accurate, that would certainly raise serious questions about the initial police response, wouldn't it?
You'd think so. Norton's basically calling for sustained pressure now on both the police and the government.
It's a call for external scrutiny, essentially arguing that only outside pressure can ensure a proper investigation.
Now, we should also mention President Ali had apparently stated earlier in the week that he had kept his word.
How so?
By bringing in that foreign expert, the Canadian investigator, and by allowing those foreign pathologists for the first PME.
Okay, so the government's line is, we've already involved external parties, we're being transparent.
Exactly. Which sets up this fundamental conflict very clearly.
You've got the government saying, look at the steps we've taken, pointing to the foreign pathologist report and the Canadian expert.
And on the other side, the family, backed by the opposition, saying, that's not enough. We don't trust the process. We need a second independent look, maybe even the FBI.
So, pulling it all together, what are the main points of friction?
Well, fundamentally, it's the Attorney General saying a second PME isn't needed, and the GPF, with Canadian assistance, is the right way forward. He's wary of precedents.
Right.
Then you have the Younge family and the opposition leader speaking for them, who have deep distrust. They want that second independent autopsy by Dr. Daisley, and they want major international bodies involved, like the FBI.
Because they feel the current investigation, even with the Canadian assist, isn't truly independent or maybe thorough enough given the circumstances of the discovery?
Precisely. The government bringing in the Canadian seems like an attempt to find some middle ground, maybe build some confidence.
But clearly it hasn't fully satisfied the demands or eased the concerns of the family and their supporters.
Not based on these reports, no. The core issue seems to be trust. Trust in the findings, trust in the police, trust in the government's process.
It's fractured.
So, as we wrap this deep dive, the big sticking points remain. Is a second post-mortem necessary or valuable? And is it appropriate or even essential to bring in major international investigators?
We know the first PME said drowning, but the how and when surrounding Adriana's discovery leave the family unconvinced.
And the government has acted, bringing in the Canadian expert to assist, which is a nod towards needing external expertise.
But it leaves us and you listening with a really tough question. In these incredibly sensitive cases, with families desperate for justice and established legal systems needing to function, how do authorities find the right balance?
Yeah, what gets prioritized? The desire for absolute certainty, even if it means multiple procedures or bringing in outside agencies every time, versus maintaining the integrity and standard processes of the national system, especially under such intense public scrutiny.
It's a complex calculation. What factors should weigh most heavily when the perspectives on the ground differ so much? Something to really think about.